What's up, Scoop Podcast? I'm your host, Erica Krupin, and on today's episode, it's a bonus episode, which means this content is going to be a little bit different. I have been wanting to try out some new stuff, and this episode is going to be very different than the normal content. I have my husband in-house, Joshua Krupin.
Hello.
And no, I'm not holding him hostage fully, but I'm really excited to have him in because last week I did a truck talk and I got really personal and just kind of went really deep with some stuff. And I don't really know, I wasn't planning on doing that. It just happened because that's just how I am as a person. So I wanted to bring him in and kind of talk about some of the entrepreneur stuff. He has a 9-to-5 job. I'm an entrepreneur. When we first got together, I had a 9-to-5. So a lot of things have changed over how long have we been together for?
Going to be 14 years.
14 years. So a lot of things have changed. So if this isn't something that you're interested in, I completely understand you tuning off and just coming back to the Monday's episode. But if you want an inside peek of what it's like between a 9-to-5er, an entrepreneur, a man that is typically pretty calm and married to a wife that is a tornado, stay tuned. Thank you. Before we get into the episode, I would love it if you would subscribe. If you're listening to this over on Apple Podcast, if you could leave me a well-worded 5-star review, that would help me so much, and it would also help the episode or the show grow. And that's what we're really looking for in 2025. We're trying to reach as many people as possible, so it would truly, truly help out if you would go ahead and leave a comment. And if you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. Come on. You know what to do. These Wednesday episodes, bonus episodes, would not be able to happen without the show sponsors. So I want to give a big shout out to Jobber, Poop Scoop Millionaire over on the school platform, Cycle CPA. I want to thank you so much for sponsoring the channel, giving me support. So if any of you are interested in getting a CRM for your business, check out Jobber. If you want to learn more on how to grow your Pooper Scooper business, definitely check out the Poop Scoop Millionaire community over on School. And if you're having a hard time keeping track of your books, give Cycle CPA a call. They got my books in order. They do bookkeeping. They reconciled everything. So all my accountant needed to do was log in during this tax time, and I don't have to do anything. I just got to sign some paperwork and send over some extra stuff that wasn't in QuickBooks. So definitely give them a shout and check them out. All right, now that I'm done with my whole spiel, let's get into the actual interview. Joshua, please tell the guests, well, I know who you are, but why you're here.
Oh, because my wife said, hey, you want to do a podcast today?
While he was rolling his legs and back out, he was all vulnerable. I'm like, hey, you want to do a podcast? And he's like staring up at me. He's like, sure.
Yeah, and now here we are.
Yeah. So if you want, give the listeners a little bit of a rundown. What do you do for work? How does that look for you?
Well, how does work look for me?
Well, what does your work setup look like? So you're 9-to-5. You're
Yeah, more of an 8-to-4, really.
What's funny? I actually got that written in there.
So, they say 9-to-5. We start at 8, so let's say 8-to-4.
An 8-to-4. Sometimes it's 8-to-6, 8-to-7, 8 to dark.
Rarely.
Then where you been at?
I can't disclose all the information.
All right, so tell the listeners what you do.
Well, I'm a crew leader for a tree service. So that means I basically get a hold of the customer, let them know we're on the way, arrive, knock on the door, get them outside, go over the job, perform the job, and then get paid and get on my way.
So how long have you been doing trees for?
I've been doing trees for going on 17 years next month.
What got you into tree service?
It's a family thing. All my brothers are tree service workers as well. They've grown on to start their own businesses, and I work for one of them.
Yeah, you've been doing trees for a very long time. When you first got into it, what was that like? Were you scared to go up into a tree? Have you always never been afraid of heights?
No, heights aren't a problem for me at all. I just, what it was is I needed a job. I just got fired from a previous job. And
what happened?
I crashed a car into a bay door, and then they wanted me to pay for it all, and I couldn't afford it. So I was fired.
Well, they weren't paying you very much, so how are you going to afford it?
You know.
And you had kids at home, so it's like new, like babies, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so you started doing tree work, and then you did that for quite some time. And then when we got together in 2011, around that time, I think you wanted to start ASAP Tree Service. Was that 2011, 2012?
Yep, 2012.
Okay. And so was that your first stab at entrepreneurship?
It sure was.
And then, so tell me a little bit about that, because you had a partner at the time too, right?
That's right. At the time, I had a partner who, we were getting the work. We had, I had a bunch of my buddies working for us. And in retrospect, like I thought we were living the high life. We were making up, pretty good money at the time too. But, nothing legit really. Like we were kind of, quote unquote renegades.
Renegade
Is what I refer to us as.
But you were legit. You filed for your LLC. You had the phone number. You had the bank account. All of that stuff.
Yeah,
so
we had all that stuff.
So you weren't just like a fly-by-night company. You were actually like legal. But what ends up happening, you guys, is you go and get your LLC. You have all these hopes and dreams, and then you don't start tracking the data. You don't start putting money away for taxes. You don't have a plan, an all-around plan. So let's talk about like that first year. What was it like?
Oh, it was basically do the job, hopefully try to talk the customer into paying us cash so we can pay, the help. And then whatever's left over, split it right down the middle and rinse and repeat.
Mm-hmm. And so how long did that last for until you and Joe decided that it wasn't working anymore and you went separate ways?
To be honest with you, that lasted almost 4 to almost 5 years.
Right. Yeah, because I remember those years. I didn't know much because at this time I was still working at the hospital. So I didn't really understand the entrepreneur life. And the way that you would work really late and you would go to the gas station and you buy bonbons, and I'd be like upset that you were doing all this. I then realized when I became an entrepreneur that it's the lifestyle.
Yeah, it's very easy to just stop at the store when you're hungry and eat a bunch of junk for the most part and spend a lot of money on that junk.
Yeah, and then not track that stuff. So, okay, so you guys did that. You learned a lot. What would you say? What was your fondest memory during that time? Do you have one?
Oh, I mean, we had several like good times doing the work or being on the job site, just having fun. Several of my fondest memories are us just basically goofing off, which I don't know. Some of these homeowners probably thought we were nuts. So, but other than that, I have no idea what my fondest memory were.
Do you have a memory where you're like, that sucked? That was probably the worst job or worst like.
Oh, I mean, I had a couple of those. I even tried taking my hand at a leaf job one time to help a lady out, and I even charged her like $250, and by the end of the day, I spent $265.
So you lost $5.
So I ended up losing $5 to $15 by the end of the round of helping that lady out with her leaves.
So for those of you that are listening that are like, oh well, I'm just gonna do the homeowner's leaves before I do the poop because it's not that big of an issue. What do you have to say about that? Should you charge extra for the leaves?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Not only are you going to get all over your shoes, you're going to wind up getting it all in your vehicles and possibly back home in your houses.
Yeah, the leaves are really, they're bad. I mean, I've had quite a few jobs where it was like the poop and the leaves were all kind of mixed together, and they're wanting me to like collect all the poop. And I was like, you have a leaf problem more than a poop problem. Like you're going to have to get a landscaper. And they're like, the landscaper won't come out until you pick up the poop. And it's like, well, I don't know what to do for you. Like if I'm going to rake your entire yard, I'm going to have to charge you way more. Like we're talking hundreds and hundreds of dollars at this point.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, I kind of just wanted to do like a little icebreaker. I know you like to talk about tree stuff. Do you love that?
Sure.
Because that's your jam.
Talk.
Yeah. So then you doing ASAP tree service, and you're like, okay, I'm kind of done with this. Well, like why? Why did you guys decide that you were done?
Mainly just not seeing a direction of which way we were going, and the fact that we did like I probably should have been filing my taxes. And then, a couple of years went by where we didn't file taxes at all. And to be honest with you, I probably would have got returns anyway. But I was just so scared into thinking that, I'm going to owe all this money and there's no way ever making it up. And by this time, all of our friends didn't even work there no more. We found people off, like literally who were asking us for money at the gas station became our employees.
Like Olu, remember at the gas station?
It was Olu from the gas station.
Yeah.
Yeah. And by then I just didn't see us really going anywhere, and it really seemed like I was putting a lot more work than my partner was doing. So I just said, you know what, I'm just going to go back to work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's tough when you get behind like that with the taxes. It gets really overwhelming. So if you guys are struggling, definitely check out Cycle CPA. They will make it to where you will not get behind. You just have to be intentional. You have to make a phone call. We didn't know about Cycle CPA back then, but we did know about a local tax provider, and we brought her was it an actual shoebox?
Yes.
He had an actual shoebox.
Yeah, actual shoebox of receipts, and
she saved our butts.
And I had a deadline to meet within like 2 weeks, and she somehow miraculously pulled through and got it all figured out for me.
And I think seeing you go through that, like, it really made me be a stickler with my business, because I seen what you went through. I seen what my dad went through with his business. So when I started Croupin Spoopin Scoopin', I was like, I'm not playing around. Like, I'm so serious, by the book. And a lot of people will be like, oh, you got to take cash. You got to do this. And it's like, I don't want to deal. I don't want to deal with all of that underneath the table. I don't want to deal with paying people cash. I just want to do things as legitimate as possible, so it's trackable, and then I can just take care of my taxes. I don't have to worry about it. Like with my accountant, it's not like I have to be like, oh, I have all these receipts that I didn't run through the bank account, because everything just ran through the bank account, and it's way more seamless.
Oh, it's absolutely the way to go.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So you're working for a couple different companies. You're bouncing around, right? Because you worked for a couple different tree services during that time.
Actually, no. That's when I joined my brother's tree service and was working there.
Okay.
And I was steady there for the next about 4 years.
Okay. Dang, time flies.
It sure does.
Yeah. And then you decided you wanted to start Branch Buster.
No, that's not true either. But because what happened was I had a falling out during the COVID with one of my brothers, the owner of the company.
Oh, yeah.
And then while I was on vacation, I was fired. Yep. Not only did people laugh about getting fired on your day off, I got fired on my vacation. So
if you want to make eye contact with them, it's up there.
Fired on vacation.
Well, I do remember that. We were in Florida with a big group of friends, and then you got fired, but you got a job within 15, 20 minutes.
Within 20 minutes, there was a previous employer that I'd worked for that, would love to have me back, and said, come on down. And I was there that Monday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So then we'll fast forward. We don't have to go through all the other details. Now you're working with the other brother that owns the tree service now. And then you decided was it May?
Yeah, it was about May.
That you were going to.
You know what? There was just a lot of pent up, just probably building myself up really about being mad about stuff that probably shouldn't even been mad about really. And then decided, you know what? Enough's enough. I'm going to create my own environment to work in, so I ain't got to deal with none of this stuff. Mm-hmm. Not knowing that it's just going to be surprise after surprise after surprise. You can plan the best days, you can have all the work, and then it's like in my industry, you can't do this job yourself, so you got to depend on people, and then you got to hire the right people. And it's unbelievably challenging to get the right people in there to really make something happen, on top of getting all the work, doing all the work. It was just way too much, too many hats to wear for one person to do all this stuff and still have any type of life or happiness left in them.
It's true, because you got a wife, you have kids, you got the honeys.
Yeah.
She needs some loving too.
Absolutely.
And with us, with the poop scooping industry, yes, we have a business, but we can do this on our own. Like, we can show up and just go scoop alone. With your tree service, it's unsafe for you to go and do anything by yourself, realistically. Yeah. You got to have at least another person. So, that's tough. And so, I want you guys that are listening to understand that business is really tough. So he's been in and out of the 9 to 5. And it's even though he knows the hardships from ASAP tree service, he still wanted to go back into it. And I think there's something that's addicting to it, where it's you almost forget about the bad times, right?
Yeah. When you think back to how nostalgic it was, I thought back to Oh, me and Joe had no problem getting work. We had no problem doing certain things, but I didn't realize, like, actually all the work he was doing, meeting with customers or finding us other guys to help us do jobs or anything else like that. Where if I'm at a tree job, how can I be somewhere else at the same time? It's impossible.
Yeah.
So really didn't even factor in, the responsibilities that he has. And I'm thinking I'm just going to do it all. And it's sadly mistaken that you can quickly burn yourself out that way. So the way my lifestyle is set up, I think working the 9 to 5, is just fine with me.
Yeah. Well, because that's why I kind of wanted to give the listeners a rundown of like that you've done both, and I think you've come to the realization of you've done the entrepreneur, but the 9 to 5 really is ideal for you. Like, but you do have a leadership role within your crew, so because you've been doing it for quite some time. And for anybody that's listening, I want you to know that entrepreneurship isn't for everybody, and there's nothing wrong with that. We're wired weird, right? It almost becomes like an addiction to where you can't stop, you won't stop, you think about it continuously. I know with me, when I'm relaxing and chilling, I feel guilty. But when you relax and chill, you have a different perspective on that because it's not wasting time to you. Like, you understand the concept of you need that to like regenerate yourself. So you want to talk about like the importance of relaxing, because you've told me that before. You're like, I have to do this. Sleep is important.
Well, sometimes, you just got to shut it down and, I'm not saying be lazy or loaf around the couch or watch TV all night long, but just every once in a while, just take a mental break and take a physical break.
Yeah.
And just do a reset. With the job that I do, it's pretty much seasonal. So in the wintertime, I'm doing a long reset. But all summer long, I'm out there, not just 9 to 5, and I pick up all kinds of side work, everything I can do on the weekends too. So the way I look at it is, I've worked hard the past 8 months out the year, or possibly sometimes 9. If it's, here and there work throughout the wintertime, that's all right. As long as, all the bills are getting taken care of.
Yeah, that's true. And I know I've griped on you a lot about relaxing because me, I'm like, is this where my dad comes in to play? My dad be like, you sleep enough when you're dead. If I'm working, you're working. And so like I have that mentality too. So when I see him relaxing, I'm like, don't you got something to do? He's like, no. Don't you see me and this dog right now chillaxing?
Yeah. Make sure the dog's okay and comforted and warm on the couch.
Yeah, that's funny. So, I mean, I've already kind of expressed last week's episode, like my side. What would you say like the struggles are on your end being married to an entrepreneur?
The fact that it's lonely. They say the entrepreneurship part's lonely, but then the fact that like you're always busy and always doing something, where if I'm not just going to join you and be busy too, we don't really spend a lot of time together. So It's a lot of sacrifices as far as, we're not just sitting around cuddling, making out and keeping it spicy. You're out here, trying to create a social media business and a poop scooping business and whatever other business you could probably think of come to play here in the future.
Yeah.
Because that's just the way you are, and that's okay. But that's the big sacrifice there is basically if I just jump in with you and say I'm going to be busy too, we ain't hanging out.
You guys listening in the comments, let me know your thoughts on that. If you have some words of encouragement for me, that would be great. Because this is something I realized yesterday when we were watching TV. Like I have that episode that I'm watching. I can't think of what it's called right now. But when I start watching TV, because I have an addictive personality, I want to start binging and binging. It's not like I'll just watch 1 or 2. It turns into 1 or 2 days.
Yeah, I don't need to do all that.
That's what happens with me because I'm very much so like all or nothing. I'm still working through that. But like if there were 4 or 5 seasons of that show, I'm not even 100% sure if I'd be recording this podcast right now.
I'm not sure if I even like that show.
I like it. And he's watching it because I like it.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, because you watch like horror movies and stuff, and then I have nightmares.
Yeah, I don't get to watch horror movies a lot anymore or horror shows.
Well, I'm gone a lot, so you could watch those while I'm gone.
Not nearly as fun.
What? You like to hear me just complain the whole time? You like that?
I like it when we got to put on Hey Arnold or some cartoons after we're done.
Oh yeah, it messes me up. I hate it. I hate horror movies. I don't like it. Okay, so you said that it's lonely, which I get that. I do feel bad about the loneliness on your end, but I did motivate you to start coming to the gym with me
Absolutely.
because I was also doing that separately. You weren't coming for a
No.
while. I would say September, October, November, December, January. You started coming in February, so
Started coming early January.
so let's say 4.5 months.
4.5 weeks.
4.5 months I was going before
Oh,
you
you
joined.
were going, absolutely. Yeah, at least probably 5 months.
Yeah. So like I'm working out, and of course I'm like trying to get healthier and
Living my best life.
He was living his best life, eating the pizza, chilling with the dog, relaxing because he's laid off right now. And me and my brain, I'm like, you gotta come to the gym with me, and let's talk about that. Like the first day where you actually came, because I know there was a lot of lead up to it, and I was like putting the pressure on you. Why were you so hesitant to like go? What was going on there?
Actually, I'm not really sure. It was just more or less like, oh, here she is, controlling my life some more. Tell me what to do some more, please. Oh, you're going to the gym? I better go too? Imagine that. But then, you know what? It's like as the first couple days went by, and I'm like thinking to myself, like, oh, maybe this sucks. And then about a week goes by, I'm like, oh, you know what? This really don't suck that bad. And now it's been about 6 weeks, and I'm starting to see some results. I'm looking in the mirror, and I'm thinking, well, you know what? This ain't bad at all. So now I actually get up and look forward to going, and it's become part of the lifestyle.
Which I really like. And, the touching back on like, here she goes controlling me. That's probably because of like my delivery, because I'm not very like soft with my delivery, which I'm sure I'm going to learn. Hopefully I learn how to deliver stuff better. But the personality that I have, I see the potential. And I can also see like problems, right? I could see problems happening. I could see, especially with you doing tree work, you're used to like all those endorphins. You're used to that high that you get when you're up in a tree, all that adrenaline. When you're home, not working, you're not getting that stuff. So I see a personality change in you that's drastic. And it's like your face is longer, you're not sparkling, you're maybe even a little bit more like mad, I would say, than you normally are. And so I could tell, I'm like, okay, some diet changes would help him. Some working out will definitely help. And this is a good way for us to spend time together. And I know it circles back to what Erica's doing, Josh has to do, but I'm the one that's the mover and groover. And we talked about this. It's all positive things. So I think that's why you've had like peace of mind with it.
Yeah. I mean, even with going to church too, because that was another one where you started going months before I started going. And again, you just get pulled in there, and you're just surrounded with positivity. And then same thing, you get going, and it's like, yeah, you get excited about going, and it also becomes part of your lifestyle. So where you're eating right, and you're working out, and you're going to church, and you're trying to live right, and it's nothing but positive things.
When we got together, I was working at the hospital, and I was a very different person.
Absolutely.
Okay, so now, has it been difficult for you to like relearn me as I go through these changes?
Yeah, absolutely. Before it was just like, watch my sleep schedule. I got to be to work at 6 a.m. and I work 45 minutes away. So that means you got to be up at 4:30.
Mm-hmm.
And, there was a lot of times where you're very grumpy, very attitudey. But now, you know what? You don't have to. You get up at 4:30 now because you want to go to the gym.
Yeah.
And that makes a big difference from going to a place that you hate.
I hated that job.
And that's the other part, is you got out of a job that you hated into building your own thing. And I think that's changed your life immensely in the right direction.
Yeah, because I remember walking into that hospital just like, what am I doing? Like, why am I here? Which at the time I was very grateful because it got me out of Inkster. And that was the the best decision for me was getting out of where I grew up. There, it's no good there. Okay. So because of that, I was able to get around people that were educated, women that carried themselves well. And I got to see like what educated people and how they interacted, which was great because at that time I would say that I was pretty ratchet, not a lot of self-respect for myself. Um, so I will never say that I'm not appreciative of the hospital job. I really am, but I just knew that like because I was so miserable, I wasn't giving my all. I wasn't even probably giving 50% because I hated it so much. So I had to create something because I knew that I didn't want to work for somebody else. And so I just went, just kind of went all in. And oh man, being an entrepreneur will change you because you have to learn structure, you have to learn discipline, you have to learn I think self-control is similar to discipline and all that stuff. So there's just a lot that goes into it. And then you start getting around people, if you choose to, that are more successful. And then you realize that people that are more successful, they carry themselves differently, they talk differently, they spend their time differently. And that really is what has led me to this big change. Trisha Dork was huge. And I heard her on Brian Fullerton's podcast, Fullerton Unfiltered. She blew my mind when I heard her interview. And then he had her as a guest speaker.
Yeah, it's a lot. LAL.
Yes.
I was there for that.
And I remember telling you, I'm going to meet her. I'm going to talk to her. Mm-hmm. So we specifically went to the event the night before. I don't do like go-karting and like big, all that stuff really freaks me out there because there was a lot of people there. And I'm not even in the landscaping community. So it's like, what the heck am I doing going to these places? But I really wanted to meet Trish, and I knew that was my way to do it. So I walked right up to her, shook her hand. And because of that, over the years, we have kept in touch with each other. And I was like, okay, what is a fit woman that's got her stuff together, that is successful? What does she do? What does that look like? I'm like, Trisha, she works out, right? She's building a successful business. She goes to bed early. She meal preps. She's taking care of herself. She stays committed.
Yeah, she gets up early too.
Yeah, super structured. So that's what I was like focusing on, like inner Trisha, focus on Trisha. Not that I'm like obsessed with Trisha, but like I do fan over you, girl. She's going to be on the podcast actually next month. And this studio, she's actually the one that helped me get into this place. Mm-hmm. So I have a lot of respect for Trisha. But anyways, circling back, like what would you say like the biggest struggle has been? I'm sure you've had a lot of frustrations where it's like, I used to act one way and one way was okay. And then all of a sudden I'm like, that's not acceptable. I don't do that, or we can't do that anymore. And you're like, what the heck? What do you mean?
I don't know. Part of it's all got to do with just growing up, and, putting the alcohol down was a major thing where, again, you put the alcohol down, well over a year before I did.
Mm-hmm.
And, so, there is no going to the bar. There is no going out and just having a drink. We don't do that stuff. So, at first it was a major adjustment when, I wanted to have a beer or whatever. And you're telling me like, no, you need to put that down. And I'm thinking to myself like, wow.
Here we go again. Nice and controlling.
And I'm just thinking like, whatever. But then again, you're pushing me to be better. Alcohol ain't going to bring you nothing but negativity. So again, it's like really all these things that I'm thinking, oh, she's just controlling my life. Oh, you just want better for me. And realistically, that's real love right there.
Oh, see, I do love you.
That's true. It's true. You want better for me, and which in turn lead to a better life for the both of us.
Mm-hmm. Now, when we're together, it's easy to do it because when you're surrounded with people that aren't doing things, it's easy. What is it like when you're around other people that are drinking? Well, I think that's the only thing right now is the drinking. How's that been for you?
Really, it hasn't really been that hard.
No?
Because I don't, there's ways of just not being in certain situations. But then again, it's after work and all the guys are at the yard having a beer. It's easy to just say no thanks. And if they razz you a little bit, you just deal with it and laugh it off and brush it off because it is what it is. You know what I mean? And if you're going to make that choice to be done with alcohol, you just, I'm trying to stay committed to that decision.
So I remember we came home from LCR Summit and you cracked open a beer. You didn't drink the entire time we were there and you cracked it open. And I remember seeing you with it and I was like, what are you doing? And you're like, I'm just trying to unwind. Like, what was going through your mind like after that? Because I'm drawing a blank on her name. I think it was Chrissy from church. She's like, Josh felt convicted. Like the Lord was speaking to him at that moment. And I was like, I don't know, maybe I never asked him about it. So I'm curious, like what was going through your head when you're like, I don't want to do this anymore?
Well, I just realized that, you know what? A lot of times when I drink, I get sad.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, you know what? I think I'm unwinding and I think I'm this and that. But realistically, I just had a great time at another place. It's time to be depressed to balance everything out, I guess. So, and then I decided, you know what? Erica's right. I need to just be done with it. And I'm going to give it a shot and see what happens. And now it's been, since
October.
Yeah, like late October.
Yeah. I'm proud of you.
And we're into February, just so you know. So.
Especially, we were in Hebrews right now, where Pastor Jimmy has been talking about, what is it? Something about like of the world. Like you can be in the world, but don't do what the world is doing.
Right. Don't be of the world.
Yes. Okay. I don't know the exact passage, but that really has spoken to me because making all of these different changes, it's weird. It's different. Like the eating healthy, getting up early to go to the gym, not drinking the alcohol. What else are we trying to be better about?
Going to church, being involved in the church.
Yeah. And I'm really trying to work on my language, but that's not going too well. I dropped the F-bomb when he was in here and he was like, you're the first one to swear since I've been here. I'm like, I know. I need to be better. It's hard. It is really hard, especially when you have to basically like change who you are almost, because a lot of the tendencies, like I get stressed out, I'll have a drink. I get stressed out, I'll go eat something that's unhealthy, right? But now it's like, okay, I get stressed out, let's go work out. Let's lean into the Bible. Let's call a friend that is positive instead of negative. And so it's like making all these different changes and breaking those habits.
Exactly. It's just you're going from what I would say from the darkness to the light.
Yeah. So we've both talked or like touched on the loneliness part. Like you were talking about how it's super lonely, because you have friends, but you don't have like a lot of friends. Mainly because you became a dad so young.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Right, and now the kids are we're getting old, right? They're 17 and 19, getting right. Yeah. Ethan's gonna be 20.
He's gonna be 20.
And so now you're trying to like figure out like who you are.
That's a lot of what's going into right now. Mm-hmm. I feel like with almost really just taking your lead. Like you're saying, hey, let's do this. It's good for you. This is good for you too. And so is this. So let's do it all. And here we are. And realistically, now that time has gone by and, it's not like an overnight, we just decided we're just going to be these perfect people overnight. But as time goes by, next thing you know, there's just little improvements over and over and over again. And now it's like, wow, I really feel like a whole new person these last few months.
Yeah, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but because you had kids so young, you've always had to think about their wants and their needs. You also became a husband pretty young too, so you had a wife to think about. With me, like, I don't have any biological children, and I'm the oldest child, so very much, I'm selfish. We can just make that very clear. I'm very much so about me. What I want to do is going to happen. So I've never had to be like a biological mother where I had to sacrifice for my kids. So I don't, even though I've been a stepmom with you, like there with you, I don't know what it's like to have to sacrifice as much as you and their mom has, because at the end of the day, You guys are going to figure it out. Even if I'm doing like doctor's appointments and doing other stuff, at the end of the day, the kids were going to get taken care of. And that stuff was never like riding on me solely. So I think I'm able to make decisions quicker and just more carelessly, and very much so like, I'm doing this, I don't care about anybody else, because I haven't been in your position to where you have to be more thoughtful and you kind of maybe think about like bigger picture.
Yes and no.
Okay, let's talk.
When these kids were little, I had plenty of support and plenty of help from my parents, even some friends, where times where my parents weren't available to, basically take the kids while I went to work, or if they had a doctor's appointment or something, like you would take them, or she would take them at first, because I couldn't miss work. And it's like, I was really just almost essentially like work came before everything else. And then I realized like, no, that's not right.
But you had to provide.
I had to provide, but, with being in a divorced with the kids, like, I had to make sacrifices too. And I had to learn how to do that. But mainly growing up before these kids could really watch themselves, like I had a ton of help that very inexpensive.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That was one of the big reasons, let's just be very honest, to be a single woman, a good job at the hospital, no children, to get with a man that has an ex-wife and 3 young children. That's crazy. Like, that's crazy on paper. Okay. Like when you really look at it, because even a lot, like my family and like friends were like, whoa, what are you doing? There's a lot going on here. But the way that you were with the kids and the way that your family just welcomed me, and even the kids, they were handfuls, don't get me wrong, but they were still very sweet. We had our tough times and we worked through it. But I think it just, I was like, this doesn't really make sense to me, but it feels right. So I'm going to roll with it. And I'm glad that I did, because
yeah, I'm glad you did too.
Yeah. And because I came from, like, my parents are still together, but it was a very toxic upbringing. And I like longed for that type of like family that you guys had, and all the kids running around.
Oh yeah, family's a beautiful thing.
I met everybody at once. Like, how many were there? Between 17?
Yeah.
Like all 17 people?
Yeah, 17 people. I
met everybody at once, and they were all very warm, and I like hopped right in there. And then I went to church with you, and I did feel like I was duped a little bit with that, because like you invited me to church, and then once we got together, you quit going to church.
That's true.
And I was a little thrown off by that. Like, what happened there, if you don't mind me asking?
I have no idea. Maybe I just felt like I received a blessing, and then that was it. Thanks. Gotta go. I was still pretty young at the time too.
Yeah, we were what, 24?
Yeah, 24, 25-ish.
Yeah. But that's okay. We're back in church, so all is good now. Okay. You're going to be brutally honest with this question, aren't you? All right. So this one is actually from ChatGPT. I'm just going to read it right to you guys. I get advice from a lot of people, friends, family, even you. Do you ever feel like I actually listen to your advice, or do you think I just do my own thing?
Should we just circle back to the selfishness? And
yeah, we can circle back to that.
Like, yeah, you do your own thing. Unless I got something really good and smart to say that you're probably just going to do anyway. Other than that, yeah. It's pretty much you're gonna figure it out your way.
I know, and there'll be times where I'll do something and you'll be like, I suggested that, remember?
Oh yeah, there's plenty of those.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And maybe I don't give them the credit that is owed.
Oh
no.
But you know what? Sometimes, not all heroes wear capes,
Was there a time, like just in business, let's say, that you felt like you gave me some pretty solid advice and I ignored it, and then I was like, oh, and you've seen like the mess up, where you're like, if you would have taken my advice, you wouldn't have this outcome?
I don't know if you really want to go in there.
I don't know. Is it about the hiring?
All of it.
There's a lot of work that needs to be done.
Yeah, there's a lot of work.
But I think what happens to me is you tell me this advice, and then
You want me to do it. You say, I'll say, hey, you know, if you did this, this would probably work for you. And then you're like, you do it. You should do it. And then,
well, I don't think it's fair for you to offer advice and
when I'm not even in your shoes.
Yeah, or where you want to do
I'm just
it.
trying to.
I know.
Trying to just put ideas out there. I really just like bouncing ideas on you.
And then I get defensive.
You know, but that's okay. It is what it is. Like, you know, at the end of the day, it's like, hey, we're alive. You know, the house is good. Everything's, you know, going okay. What's wrong with that?
That's true. But I think it's also too, like, we have to be careful who we take advice from. In this last episode, I was talking about how, like, you know, when I used to get around certain girlfriends, and then they would be like complaining about their spouse, bickering, and then all of a sudden you kind of get sucked into that, where you're like, yeah, well, so and so, he does this, and then it becomes very toxic. From what I heard, you have not gotten sucked into that. Like, you say very positive things about me.
Oh yeah, it's true.
Even if maybe you're not feeling super positive about me.
Right on.
Can you talk about that? Where did that come from?
Oh, well, basically, like, if you do go around just talking negative all the time, and then you just stick around with that person, you look like the idiot.
Yeah.
You go around ragging on somebody and just saying, hey, oh yeah, this person sucks, or, you know, what they do is terrible. And then you're like, oh yeah. And then the next day you're king and queen online, or whatever the cliche is. Oh, we're the best, DJ Khaled. And then, you know, and then you're going to your buddies and talking about how miserable you are, and then you stay anyway. So it's like, you look like the idiot at that point. So you might as well just be good. And then the time that I ran into your friend's mom on the job site, I was doing a tree job, and she was like, oh, you're Erica's husband. And I said, oh yeah, I'm married to Erica. I love her. She's wonderful, from the tree.
No.
And she couldn't believe it. Her jaw hit the floor. She had to pick it up off the ground. And now she just thinks the world of me.
She does. Connie. We love you too, Connie.
Oh yeah.
Did your parents speak well about each other?
Absolutely. There was never that's one thing I can really say honestly about my upbringing, is that there was never, you didn't hear them fighting with each other. I was taught that my mom was the most beautiful woman in the world, and that's it.
She is beautiful.
And to just basically respect the crap out of your parents, and that's the way I was brought up. And, you know, we didn't go without.
And you can tell just by how, like, your family interacts with your parents. Like, there's times where I'm like, where are you going? What are you doing? He's like, I'm just going to go over to my parents' house and hang. And I remember I used to get mad sometimes. I'm like, why is he going over there? Like, what's going on? It was jealousy on my part because I didn't have a good relationship with my parents. Like, when I would go over to their house, there was a period of time where I wouldn't even sit because I didn't feel comfortable, because there was so much tension between us. And the fact that you had this, like, loving upbringing, I was very jealous of it. And now that I've moved past that, and it's like, how lucky am I that I got to marry into a family like that? Now, because I decided to go to this specific church, Connie and Mike go to the church, and Josh is there, and then now the nephews are going,
and the nephew's family, and his mom and his grandma, and, like, I mean, with you going there, we probably filled 20 seats in that church.
And it's so beautiful how it's all kind of coming together. And I wrote Connie a little Valentine's card, and just basically told her, like, thank you for seeing the good in me even when I didn't. Because, I mean, there was rough times, and I would go over there and I would literally be bad mouthing you to your mom, and she'd listen.
Oh yeah.
Never say anything, and then just give me some solid advice that was delivered with love and respect. On both parts.
Then that's the difference between somebody giving you advice who's been married for over 45 years.
Yes, which is really, really big on who you take advice from in business, in life, in marriage, which I kind of talked about last week. And
Yeah, you definitely want to look at where they're at and if they even have the credibility to even give that advice, basically.
Yeah, it's true. With fitness too, you got
Mhm.
somebody that's overweight and fat that's telling you how to eat, and you're like, don't listen.
Hmm.
I know you eat good. Don't tell me nothing.
Uh,
And same thing with like a failing business. You don't want to take advice from people that don't have businesses or failing, or a business that's failing. And that's why I think it's really important to watch who you're taking advice from on the internet. There are so many internet gurus on here that are just giving so much advice, and they haven't walked the walk and talked the talk. And I'm really happy that I've been able to like document this journey with you guys, and you get to see the ups and the downs, the goods and the bads. And sometimes I'm like, this is really vulnerable. Why do I put this stuff on the internet? It's because I wish I had this when I was getting started in business. I wish I had content like this when I was newly married and trying to figure out how to be a wife, or when I'm just trying to figure out how to even carry myself with respect. Um, I didn't have a big sister. I didn't have anybody to look up to. So if I could be your big sister or your big cousin or something to where you could be like, hey, I need some guidance, if I could just help one of you, that's the reason why I put this content out there.
it's wonderful. Little mentorship action.
Because I wish I had it, man. I really did. I was so lost and so confused when I was transitioning from being 18, going to the hospital and just trying to figure out like the right and the wrong and the partying and being around people and the relationships that I was trying to get into. And that's a big reason of when you and I got together. Like you were you were boring, but you were stable. And you
Very
were
boring.
boring because you had babies at home, very consistent. You hung out with the kids. You did trick me that you cleaned your house, that you did your dishes.
Huh.
You tricked me.
Well,
You did. I was duped.
yeah, you got to throw a little out there, kind of.
He would do the dishes before I would come over after working at the hospital. Nice.
Yeah, that way you come over to a nice clean house,
Oh, I remember I was doing the dishes for you one time. Let me tell you guys this. I was doing the dishes, and he had a roommate that was living with him as well. I won't say his name, but he comes out of the bedroom, and I'm like doing the dishes, and I'm just finishing up, and he slides a freaking dish slowly into the dishwater, makes eye contact with me, and then like walks away. And I was like, "What the heck? I'm not doing these dishes anymore."
That's the good stuff.
That was I couldn't believe it. I'm like, what is even happening right now? You guys had so much dishes. I threw the dishes away one time because I was so mad and so overstimulated about the dishes. I just got rid of them all. That was crazy.
Yeah, I would never think to do anything like that ever. It's crazy. But, you learn to live with it.
But no, I eliminated a lot of the extra dishes. So now we don't have that many. We have literally just a little bit over enough for the whole family. So even if all the dishes were dirty, there would only be a dishwasher and a half of dishes. That was calculated. Did you know that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Again, I would never even think of nothing like that.
It's just how my brain's wired, man. All right, we're at about 53 minutes. So we'll go ahead and we'll wrap this up. But I want to talk about how we're able to like balance what we got going on. Like you're working the 9 to 5, I'm doing the entrepreneur thing, and I'm trying to build another business. Like, what do you do to try to keep things cool on your end? Like maybe when you see me all like stressed out where I'm like ready to freak.
I just ignore you and just kind of avoid you. No, I'm just kidding. No, like realistically, it's just I know that you're doing stuff. Like everything you're doing has purpose, and I can accept that, and I realize because me being somewhat of a workaholic, when it's time to work myself, like you're working.
Yeah.
So hey, do your thing. You know what I mean? So I don't feel like there's a need to be like, oh, me, please me.
What is that song? Occasionally, I want to talk about me.
So, I let you do your thing as far as that goes. But, like you said, I basically adjusted as far as just getting into some of the same activities you're into. That way we can spend time together. Just like the old saying goes, right? If you can't beat them, join them.
Yeah. Do you feel bitter at all that I won't join you with your activities?
Absolutely not.
Is that being truthful? You're being truthful?
Very truthful.
Because I do worry about that.
No, there's nothing that I'm doing that's going to benefit you.
It's true.
The good stuff that we're doing together.
Yeah, spend time with the
you're going to come to my job and work with me, and when I got time, I'll help you. Most of the time, but doesn't all our schedules don't always line up like that. You ain't always, it's not like I'm always needing to be in the field. But I have been plenty of times.
Yeah, you definitely helped a lot scooping in the field, which is very appreciated because it's donated time.
Oh yeah.
I don't even think I feed you anymore.
No, not anymore.
It
used to be, if we're going to go out and do spring cleans, if you take me out to dinner, we're good. But then I realized that we're working, and possibly one, maybe even sometimes two of those spring cleanups for the price we were given was covering the meal. So it's like, yeah.
Yeah, what's the point? And I'm gluten-free and dairy-free. That's anher thing.
I
am gluten-free and dairy-free now. So let's talk about that challenge with going out to eat.
To be honest with there's really not that much of a challenge because you bought the smoker.
Oh, yeah.
And I realized that if I just buy the food and make it at home on the smoker, and what I've learned, I can make it better than the restaurant anyway.
Yeah, your steaks are really good and your chicken's really good. But we had to get rid of all of the gluten seasonings because that was messing my stomach up.
That's okay too, because all those Traeger rubs that come with that smoker are gluten-free.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but what about that's another thing too. So we used to date night, we used to go out to eat and we would drink. Mm-hmm. We can't do any of that stuff anymore.
So we really don't date that often no more.
But has that been bugging you out a little bit? How has that adjustment been? Because I personally, I'm going through the adjustment of not drinking. I'm going through the adjustment of not being able to eat the gluten and the dairy anymore. So it's I'm focused on that versus not really paying attention as much of now I can't do these things with my husband because I'm so focused on just trying to get through relearning a new habit.
Well, I think we both of us got learning to do on different things we could spend our time doing that isn't just eating. And then we ain't got to worry about that stuff.
Are you going to come to the gun range with me? Because I know how to shoot now.
Sure, we go to the gun range.
I'm learning how to shoot. I just need to learn how to clean my gun.
When the springtime comes up, we'll go to the tree climbing place. We'll go to all those places if you want.
What's a tree climbing place?
The tree runner, Russ Bloomfield.
Oh yeah. I thought you were meaning like a tree event or something.
Remember the obstacle course that you chickened out in the very last? You had one more thing to go, and you were like,
I didn't know.
I probably could have did it.
My sugar was dropping.
Your sugar was dropping.
I was so scared up there.
Yeah.
And I was pretty out of shape too. So I think
it'd be a lot different this time.
I think both of us.
Yeah.
I've gotten a lot stronger. Me and Kelly were killing it at the gym today. We were doing straight glutes. That's another thing is getting new friends. I had to get new friends. I kind of let them go. They kind of let me go. So it was we kind of just quit on each other type deal. And so I've been I got to meet new people. Guess where I met a new friend at? At the gym. She's also a 5 a.m. workout girly. I feel like you and Eric might become friends one day. Or you and Eddie.
It's a possibility. I see it. Mm-hmm. Eddie's a pretty cool dude. Eric's a pretty cool guy.
Yeah.
But you also got a good friend. You've got some friends at the church too.
Yeah, we got. So Kelly, she's top of mind because we were working out together today. Which I'm gonna have Kelly on the podcast. I really think that she's very inspirational. She's super positive, so she's gonna probably be a Wednesday bonus episode. But she invited me to a cold plunge, and I was I've never done that before. And it was a cold plunge and a sauna. And while we were in the sauna, she asked me if she could pray over us. And I started crying because I hadn't had that. And I had been longing for that for quite some time. A friend that is yoked, where we're walking similar paths. She's 10 years about a little bit over 10 years, maybe 12 years older than me. So she's been through some things and she's super mature. She looks great. She is probably the strongest woman at the gym.
Yeah, I think so too.
Right. And she's so much fun. And I just feel very grateful to have met her because this is what I've been praying for. I'm going to start crying right now thinking about it. And it's just like the Lord really is delivering on the things that I've been praying on for quite some time. And I only believe that He's doing that because I'm trying to serve Him better. And I am trying to be better for Him, which in turn is bringing the good things to me because God is so good. And that's the other thing that I'm learning is we can't do this on our own. We shouldn't be doing this on our own. And if we don't know the answer to something and we're lost, the Bible will tell you exactly what to do. It has the answers right in there. And that's so very freeing, and that almost releases the anxiety and the pressure of like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. Well, God's going to get me through this. But you have to let Him.
Yeah, it's powerful stuff right there.
Woo, I get so emotional when I start talking about it. But
sometimes you just gotta open it up.
You do. And I feel it too, like when I'm putting bad stuff into my head, and even today I'm like, I've been watching too much political stuff. I needed to. I opened up and was listening to some Myron Golden, some Bible study. And I was like, that's what I need. I put on some gospel music, really getting into it. And I'm like, it's time to refresh.
Yeah, snap you out of a negative or dark mindset real quick.
Right. That's for sure. All right. Well, I think this episode was really good. We're about an hour in. This is probably the longest you've ever sat still, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm trying my best.
Nice handshake. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming in.
A left-handed shake.
Yeah. You have any last words or kind of like a summary of what's going on here? What do you think?
Yeah, you need to take my advice and, stop just being so selfish. No, realistically, this was a good talk, and I don't know, I just feel like it was all positive, and we got some things out there that, somebody else might hear and say, you know what, I got a similar issue, and maybe we're going to do what they're doing and kind of just figure it out and move towards, like the light.
He's a figure it out, and I'm let's make a plan.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. All right, Let's make a plan.
We'll figure it out is my favorite saying, pretty much. We'll figure it out.
And what's mine? Let's make a plan.
Yeah, what are you doing today? What's your schedule looking like?
I'm trying to change that to how are you doing? How are you doing today? Instead of what are you doing today? How are you? Let me just practice that. Josh, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing good.
So what's the plan for today?
I'll figure it out.
And on that note, you guys, I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for tuning in. Go ahead and click the links down below to check out the show sponsors because they are what keeps the lights on around here. And until next time, bye.
Bye.